Hey guitar fam and friends, I have been in the market for a semi-hollow body guitar for a couple months now, and I got a really good deal on both of these on Facebook Marketplace, and I'll tell you the entire story behind these two guitars after the playing clips. I don't want to keep you in suspense. If you want to hear the comparison, here they are. Okay, so the story begins with me wanting to get a semi-hollow body guitar because I was doing a lot of practicing, and I'm doing a lot of practicing with improvisation over chord changes, and a big part of that has been this app called Solo, where it tells you, what chord to play, what chord tones to play over that chord, and it listens and it tells you, if you've done the right one and proceed to the next chord tone or lick or whatever. Semi-hollow body guitars are a little bit louder than solid body guitars. And that's what I initially needed because the app was having trouble with my phone, picking up the notes with my solid body guitars, which is understandable. That and just getting into improvisation a little more in general. I wanted kind of a jazzier, more mellow, bluesier tone. So I wanted to get a semi-hollow body guitar. So after all my research, I ended up looking at these two. I got them for really cheap. I got this one for $300 US, and I got the Epiphone for $350. By the way, this is the Ibanez AS73FM, and that Epiphone is just an Epiphone ES-339, the Pro model. I think it's a 2014. I think this is a 2018 or 19, something like that. Now, this video isn't meant to be like a rundown of specs or anything like that. There are other videos like that out there, tons of them. All this is my opinion of these two guitars, and I want it to be anybody out there who owns these two guitars or have played them. I want it to be your opinion too, so this can be kind of a good resource for people that are trying to decide between these two guitars. So let me know your opinions in the comments below. What do you think if you have an Ibanez AS73 or if you have the Epiphone ES-339? That'll make kind of a more consensus, a more even consensus of an opinion for people that are looking to buy one of these guitars. Okay, the story starts off with me getting the bug for a semi-hollow body guitar. Kind of at the same time, I wanted to get my wife, Chelsea, a semi-hollow body guitar too, because she's been getting more into the blues lately, and she normally plays a Strat, which is great for certain types of blues, but she's been getting into more of the B.B. King thing, and I was like, you might want to think about getting a guitar with some humbuckers or something that's similar to what B.B. King played, like a 339. And she's short, she's 5'1", I'm only 5'9", so we're both kind of on the shorter side. So I figured a 339 would be really cool, and that's what initially got me interested in this. So I started looking at them, and I was like, you know what, this is going to be a great guitar for Chelsea. I bet if I buy it, it's just going to end up being her guitar. And I told her, yeah, you should think about this. And she's like, oh, I don't need another guitar. It's fine, I'll just play my Strat. And she kind of kept that attitude until the guitar came home and she got her hands on it and started playing it. What are you playing there?
The electric guitar.
Which electric guitar?
The Epiphone.
Anyway, it's really great for her. It gives her a little bit thicker and fatter of a tone for that BB King kind of sound. And it's smaller, so if you're a smaller person, you might want to just go for the 339. It's really great for that. Another thing, it's shorter scale. I believe both of these guitars are shorter scale. I could be wrong. Leave me in the comment below if I'm wrong. But I believe they both are a little bit shorter scale, like a Les Paul, which makes it easier to bend, which she really liked that too. So I ended up selling some stuff. I sold an amp and a nicer guitar, and I just kind of went on a tear. I bought a bunch of a little bit less expensive guitars just to have some fun playing around with them and modifying them to have some more different stuff. And it ended up being a really fun time. A little bit frustrating at times, but it ended up being really fun. I'll get more into that later. I knew I was gonna like the Ibanez just because I've already had an AG75. It was full hollow body in the past, but the airlines broke the headstock off of it, so I haven't had that guitar in 13 years, something like that. But when I had it, I loved it, and it was inexpensive. It's a great guitar for the money. So now I'll get into more of my opinions of these two guitars, and just to let you know, I did replace both of the nuts on both of these guitars with Graphtec nuts. I do that on almost every guitar I buy. I just find that Graphtec nuts, if there are any tuning stability or tuning issues, it just helps kind of negate those. So I really recommend doing that if you've never done it before. So for the Ibanez, I will say that this guitar feels a little more and sounds a little more modern. If you're looking for a super traditional sounding like ES-335 Gibson type sound, this is a little bit more modern. And that makes sense just because of the brand Ibanez. I would expect that. Not always necessarily. They make some really hardcore kind of jazz boxes that sound more traditional, but this one didn't. I think a big part of that is the pickups. These are the Classic Elite pickups, and I find them actually to be like moderate to lower output, but to sound kind of non-traditional, a little bit more modern sounding. Now, one thing I will say for this guitar, when I pick it up and play it unplugged, it does feel a little bit more resonant overall than the Epiphone. When you just pick it up, unplugged, sit down and strum it, it feels a little bit louder and a little more resonant. It's probably because, or at least part of it's because the body's a little bit bigger, but it does feel a little more open, like it's moving a little more air. That may sound weird for an unplugged semi-hollow body guitar to say that, but it is one thing that I really like about it when I pick it up. And this is a little bit smaller than ES-335, just a little bit, but it's still comfortable for me, and I'm 5'9". I actually like the way it kind of sits up higher because the body is bigger. That's one thing I really like about it too. And it just feels a little bit more modern. I think they have the same 12-inch radius for both of these guitars. And really the necks have a lot of the same specs and measurements, but this one feels different for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I do like the modern feel of this guitar a little bit better. Now, in full disclosure, I did have to get a fret dressing on this guitar. I got it home, and once I lowered the action and set it up how I like it to the specs that I like, there were some problems that I found out with some uneven frets. So I tried to do it myself, got it a little bit better, and then I had to end up taking it to my guitar guy, and he fixed it. No problems, it plays great now. Another thing, this guitar does not have coil taps. That may be a deal breaker to you, it may not be. I ended up really liking the coil taps on the Epiphone. We'll get into that later, but I also ended up going ahead and buying some push-pull pots to put in this guitar just because I like that option that's available to me. Now, the Classic Elite humbuckers, they sound good. They sound perfectly fine. They're not to my taste though, so what I ended up doing was buying some Alnico Classic Pros, exact same pickups that come in the Epiphone, just because I ended up liking them so much, and I'm gonna put them in this guitar, but I left it stock for this video just so you could see what both guitars sound like with all the original parts. Now, I don't know how much weight you put onto this when you're looking at a guitar, but cosmetics do play a big part in, what my choice of which guitar to buy. And I am a sucker for a blue finish. This lighting in here really doesn't do this justice, so I'll throw in some B-roll to let you see what this looks like in the sunlight. This blue fade is gorgeous, and I have to say, if it wouldn't have come in this finish, I probably would have just stuck with the Epiphone just initially. Probably wouldn't even have been attracted to it that much, but I like this finish so much that I was like, I just have to get that guitar and see what it's like, especially for when you can find a used one for $300 or $350. It's great. Okay, let's move on to the Epiphone. And the pickups in this guitar are probably the biggest notable difference right away. At least I think that's what it is until I get the other, Classic Elite pickups out of that Ibanez and put in the Pro, what is it called? Alnico Pro. What is it? Alnico Classic Pro in that Ibanez. I'm really not going to know for sure, but these pickups are hotter, definitely hotter, a lot more output than the Ibanez. The Ibanez are low to moderate. These are moderate, like a 6 out of 10, I would say. That's what they feel like. And they actually sound really good coil tap. That's something that it's really hit and miss on coil taps. Coil taps are when you pull out or push-pull pot or something like that, and it turns the humbucker into what would, you know, pass for a single coil. But these sound really good. Maybe it's because this guitar is darker overall, and the pickups are a little bit darker and have a little more output, that those coil taps sound really good. But I was pleasantly surprised, and just in general, when I went to go pick this guitar up, I picked it up and it had barely been used. Both of these guitars have like almost zero wear on them, at least visually. I picked this one up, and this is the first time I played an Epiphone in quite a while. I've owned Epiphones before, but it's the first one I played in a while. I picked it up, and I was just pleasantly surprised with how it felt great. The tuners felt great when I actually plugged it in. When I got home, it sounded great. I was like, this is awesome. The pickups really sound a little bit darker, which is what I wanted, but they're very much on the neutral side as far as kind of the mids go. And that's what I like. I like a blank palette to where I can dial in my tone with my amp or my pedals or whatever I'm using. And frankly, I was really surprised at how much I like the Epiphone because of all the mixed reviews I had heard online. Probably the biggest weak point for this guitar was the plastic nut. It had some tuning issues that have been mostly cleared up with replacing that nut with a Tuscan nut. You know, it just isn't tuned better, like I said. So overall, I would say that the Epiphone is more traditional sounding, and it's a little bit darker with a little bit higher output than the Ibanez. That's like a pretty good summary of what it feels like to play this guitar. And if you're looking for a more traditional tone, you might want to go for the Epiphone. If you want a little bit more like a modern tone, that it can even do metal pretty good. I mean, they can both do metal and rock stuff pretty good, but you're gonna have to contend with the hollow body aspect of it. If you're cranking up an amp, you know, it might feed back a little bit on you. But they both do heavier stuff pretty good. I was really surprised, but the Ibanez sounds more modern. It sounds like it's more geared, at least on the bridge pickup, for that type of stuff. And particularly the neck pickup on the Epiphone sounds a little more warm and rounded, more suited to like bluesy stuff and jazz than the pickup on the Ibanez. But I do really like the pickups in this guitar enough, again, where I bought a set of Alnico Classic Pros for the Ibanez. I think I picked them up for like 60 bucks US for both pickups, bridge and neck pickup. And I'll do a video on that too, comparing those pickups in that guitar to the original ones that came with it. I'm gonna put push-pull coil taps in there too. So I'll do a video on that as well. Now, as far as these two guitars, if I could only keep one, which one would it be? Well, personally, I'm going to be flipping back and forth between these two guitars, you know, for doing videos or playing or practicing or whatever, but I'm going to be mostly playing the Ibanez. My wife is in the exact opposite position. She's not going to be playing this one at all. It's just too big for her. She likes this guitar a lot more than she anticipated. This is going to be her main guitar besides her Strat, which is nice because it kind of fills in the rest of her tonal spectrum, as it were. But if I had to keep only one of these guitars stock, just dead stock, not changing anything, it would be the Epiphone. It's comfortable, it's small, it's darker, I like that. Now, since I don't have to keep it stock, what I'm gonna do is change the pickups on the Ibanez out to the pickups, same pickups that are in the Epiphone, put some push-pull coil taps in here. And in that case, if I were allowed to mod things, I would keep the Ibanez, just because I like the way it resonates more, and I like the more modern feel. That's just my 2 cents. If you're into modding guitars, I would keep the Epiphone. If you're not into modding guitars, I would keep the Epiphone. If you're into modding guitars and don't mind changing a few things out, I would keep the Ibanez. So that's my 2 cents on these two guitars. It was cool to kind of hunt them down and get a really good deal on them, and actually get my hands on them and spend some time with them. Let me know what you think about each of these two guitars in the comments below. Maybe your take on one of them will help somebody make a good decision on which one to get for themselves. I'll leave you with this little playing example that flips back and forth between these two guitars. It's just a loop of a chord progression on the latest Chelsea Amber song that we're working on, where I did a little bit of improvisation over the top. If you haven't yet, go to guitarfam.com and create a complimentary account and go through our free courses and the first module of all of our premium courses for free. We'll see you there. Bye.